Hi everybody, my name is Jim Farron and I run a small training company on Merseyside called JRC Training. And what I've done here is I've put together a short, hopefully informative set of slides and a little bit of guidance about keeping safe online during this time of self-isolation. And I think we have to sort of take cognizance of the fact that we will be spending a lot more time online. And whether we're a child, an adult or a vulnerable person, our risks quite clearly have increased. And already we're starting to see sort of people using social media to spread false news and things. So hopefully you'll find these useful. There's a few tips, and what I'll also do is I'll give you some web pages to look at. And if you're interested, and if you contact me at the email address I'll give you, I'll send you some more information out. And thanks for watching. Okay, so I think we really need to start with a bit of a reality check. Isolation is going to make us all feel a little bit more vulnerable, and we are going to be seeking answers. We are going to be seeking solace. Now, for adults, we can hopefully rationalize and conceptualize what's going on around us. But for a child, or a young person, or a vulnerable person, they may be looking for answers in the wrong places. Many children and vulnerable people and adults will be online more during this period of isolation. We know that, and we have become very reliant on the World Wide Web and social media and all the other types of things that we use to get information. Unfortunately, because of that, our risk has increased. And as I say, many people will be seeking solace and support and answers to questions are left unanswered. And they're going to probably be doing it online. And unfortunately, ladies and gents, the groomers are still very, very active. To put a very simplistic view on it, this is their harvest time. They will be out there, they will be trawling the internet, they will be sending out messages, and they will be looking for people to groom. And we've got to take some responsibility for that. And we've got to start policing social media use, because ultimately it's our job to keep our children, ourselves, and vulnerable people safe. Okay, so what I really talk about now, very briefly, is some of the online risks and activities that may or may not be occurring. It's recognised that child sexual exploitation or vulnerable person exploitation is often perpetrated online, and it can include, but please, this is not an exhaustive list. There are lots of other things, and as I say, the web pages I'm going to give you access to at the end will highlight that more. But someone may be asked, coerced, forced, threatened, or blackmailed into sending or posting a sexually explicit image of themselves. Now, we've all read in the media where quite famous people have had this type of thing happen to them. And once that image is out there, ladies and gents, it ain't coming back anytime soon. I want you to think about how vulnerable that makes a child or a vulnerable adult. Somebody's got information about them that they can use. The impact on their mental health is going to be quite shocking, and that could obviously lead to other things. They may be encouraged to film or stream sexual activities. Now, young people are by definition inquisitive, okay? And porn is freely available on the internet. You don't have to look very, very far for that. So what we've got to be very, very careful of is that the exploiter is not using this as an opportunity, as a stepping stone. So once you've sent an explicit picture or information about yourself, then they're being encouraged to get involved in streaming or filming themselves. And again, we know exactly where that information is going to end up. They may be encouraged to have sexual conversations, and these conversations again will be like a stepping stone. They will start off, innocent's the wrong word, but they will start off quite basic. Some questions will be asked, and then sexual conversations will be happening. And again, it's part of the stepping stone process. Now, what we've got to understand, and this is really, really important, is that this type of behaviour is a gateway for the exploiter or the groomer to blackmail the child into much more risk activities. Now, later on, we're going to look at the activity and the mindset of the groomer. But this is all about coercion and control over someone. And this is all about trying to skew that person's reality and drive a wedge between normality and their family and create an opportunity for the groomer. So what do we need to do to monitor and manage online activity? Because I think we've all got to take some responsibility for this. Okay, so how can we be more proactive as carers, as parents, as teachers, as older siblings? Well, first of all, let's find out what your child is actually doing online. Have conversations about what they're doing, the type of sites they're visiting, the type of games they're playing, the type of people they're interacting with. I mean, I recall many, many years ago when my son was about 12 or 13, I recall him listening to him having a conversation whilst he was playing FIFA, and he had one of these wee headsets on. And afterwards, I asked him who he was talking to, and he said to me, I was playing FIFA with a lad somewhere in central Spain. Now, I have no idea whether this guy was in central Spain, and I've no idea whether this is a 14-year-old person. I knew nothing about this person. So I sat my son down and I explained to him the risks because he was quite innocent and thought, well, I'm only playing FIFA, Dad. Show an interest in what they're doing and be open and positive and talk to them about some of the sites that they're visiting and some of the things that they're doing, and don't be judgmental. Have conversations like, well, that site doesn't seem right to me, and then facilitate a conversation why you're concerned, and empower them to feel it's okay to talk to you as well about things and educate them. You've got to be non-judgmental, particularly if a disclosure is made to you, because they're already going to be frightened. And by the way, one of the tricks of the groomer or the exploiter is to make them frightened so they can coerce and exert control over them. So, if a child or a young person or a vulnerable adult discloses to us what they've done, sit them down, support them, be empathetic, and explain to them that, they've done nothing wrong. We need to have conversations and make sure that, are they worried about anything? My wife and I foster, and we've got a foster child, and he is very, very anxious at the minute. So we're having to be quite careful about conversations we're having around him. We're limited his access to the news. But what we haven't got control over is the information that he's accessing and the people he's talking to online. So what we've done is we've started to put boundaries in place. Okay, it's our job to be nosy but nice. So that's our job as a carer or a parent or an elder sibling. Be nosy but be nice. Set boundaries. There are lots and lots of different firewalls and apps out there that can also assist you in doing this. Now, as I say, I'm not an expert when it comes to tech, but you go on to the likes of Bernardo's and the NSPCC and Childline, there's lots of apps that they will suggest that you could download to assist you with this. And of course, the most important thing is listen to the child or the person's point of view. Let them feel that they can talk to you. Empower them, give them the voice that the groomer or the exploiter might be trying to take away from them, and then use your influence to steer them to a safer position. Okay, so let's talk about the groomer, the exploiter, the radicalizer, the predator, call them what you want. They've one simple desire. They want to drive a wedge between the child and the people that can protect them. Okay, be that a parent, be that a carer, be that an elder sibling. They're very, very highly skilled and manipulative. They employ many, many tactics, but the one thing they're good at is they're very good at reeling someone in. They're very good at putting bait out. They're very good at leaving things, breadcrumb trails. And once somebody picks that breadcrumb trail up and starts to follow it, they'll reel them in. So they know what they're doing. And the tactics they use they're quite callous. I mean, they will actually perhaps send out hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of messages, and perhaps only get one or two replies. But that's the percentile that they'll play with. They want to break down the safe emotional connection between the child and the normality that they live in. Now, obviously, for children in care and already vulnerable children, this becomes slightly more complicated. But for an average child, that average child could be exploited, coerced, and groomed in a very, very short period of time. And what they want to do is they want to take away what the child would see as normality and replace it with their normality, and then explain to the child that that's the best place for them to be. Ultimately, what do they want to do? Well, they want to exploit and control. Ultimately, that's all they want to do. This is all about exploiting, coercing, forcing, and controlling. They can be any age, they can be any race, and they can be any gender. There are lots of research that will tell you sort of, the gender, the age, the occupational and ethnical background. But let's stick to the simplicity. They're online. We don't know who they are when they're online. So let's stick to the fact that they can be any person, because ultimately they're predators. Okay? They're not going to hunt in the open. They're going to hunt hidden. They're going to wait for an opportunity and they're going to take it. And we have a moral, social, and parental responsibility to be policing that. Talk very briefly now is with the so-called grooming process. Obviously, this process is going to be slightly different because of the situation we find ourselves in, but the process will still be followed in some points. So it may be a phased or gradual process, but the whole point is about exploiting and coercing and forcing a child or vulnerable person to do something. Okay, but remember, each step may not be present. The first thing there has to be is there has to be some sort of an initial contact. Well, as I say, the child of the vulnerable person is already online, so the contact is by definition potentially already being made. They will befriend them, and they will pretend to be someone who they're not. It's very, very difficult. As I said, when I spoke to my son, he was pretty convinced he was talking to another teenage boy in Spain whilst he was playing FIFA. And he said, oh, and I'm going to play another couple of games with him. And that's the befriending process. And it might have been innocent, but I had to still have a hard conversation. There may well be then the so-called exchange of favours. Might be send me some information about you. I'll send you a picture of me. And by the way, the groomer will not be sending pictures of themselves. Trust me, they will be sending pictures of someone else or anything like that. And then, of course, there is this, well, I've done something for you. Surely you can do something for me. I thought you were my friend. So the coercion and control starts to come into play. Once that's been applied, then you've got the control. Now, I want you to think about this. You're a vulnerable child or a young teenager, and you're in your bedroom, and you've done something that you know was probably not a sensible thing to do. Who are you going to tell? You might be a looked after child, and the relationship between you and your carer may have been started to break down. Or you might be a child who's embarrassed and frightened and doesn't want other people to judge them. And of course, at this point, the groomer's got them exactly where they want them, because they can now start to apply the control. Well, if you don't do what I'm going to ask you to do now, I'm going to tell people about you. There may be the odd indulgence or gift, and as I say, that may well not be present at this moment in time, but obviously in the world we used to live in, there would be, you need to be asking your child why they've got unexplained gifts, why they've suddenly got money, why their behaviour's changed. Then we're going to go straight into the coercion and exploitation. And this is where it gets quite serious, because this is where your child or vulnerable adults are being asked to do things that are very, very harmful. And of course, ultimately, we're going to be left with someone who could harm themselves, physically and emotionally. They're going to be very, very damaged. They're going to become more introverted. So again, let's be looking out for changes in behaviours. We're all going a little bit, for want of a word, a little bit cabin feverish, having been sort of locked away for so long. So let's have conversations as, are people okay? Because to say, if we don't, I'm not saying that anybody it could be getting groomed, but they could well be. Okay, so what are our duties? Well, policing, behaviour, observing, but it all comes down to something that many people in the safeguarding world use in training, which is called the 4 Rs. So our duty is quite simple. First of all, we have to recognise that A, it exists, B, that people are at risk, and C, what it looks like. And if we feel, suspect, or know that someone we care about is at risk, then we have to recognise it for what it is. Okay, we need to respond appropriately. We're going to be angry. We're maybe going to feel as if we've done something wrong ourselves, which, by the way, we haven't. Okay, so we need to make sure that our response is appropriate, because we want to be offering support to that child. We want to be trying to draw that child or that vulnerable person back to a safe normality. There's absolutely no point in shouting, ranting and raving at this point, because all you may well do is well, you may actually be playing into the groomer's hands, but also what you might do is you might actually get the child themselves to actually to close up, and that information may not come out to us. So, you've done nothing wrong. Take a step back, take a breath, and then remember you're trying to protect. Everything that you're told, record it. If possible, try and get some screenshots, find out the sites that they were on. If there is a conversational stream, take a screenshot of that, take a photograph of that, gather the information, because the police and the National Crime Agency and lots of other agencies, social services and local authorities, they're working incredibly hard to track these people down. We've got to give them the information. We've got to give them information that they can then hopefully turn into evidence. And of course, if appropriate, we then think about referring it. So if you're a teacher or a carer or a parent, and you are worried, refer it to the police, maybe speak to somebody at social services, but make sure that someone is aware. Don't keep this to yourself. When I deliver safeguarding training, I often talk about the importance of this huge protective bubble around people. And I think we've all got a duty, and we're all very capable of becoming a part of a very strong and very effective and very powerful safeguarding network. Okay, so how do we move forward? Let's get one thing straight. You or your child or the vulnerable person has done absolutely nothing wrong. The only person that is to blame is the person who's grooming or exploiting them. It's very, very important to remember that. Quite often we hear of victims and parents going through this huge guilt process of what did I do wrong? Maybe I should have done something else. You've done nothing wrong, and by doing that, you're actually playing into the groomer's hands. You've done nothing wrong. It's not your fault. We have to be more aware. Internet use and social media use has gone through the roof. People are online more and more and more. I mean, I'm socially distanced myself from a great deal of social media for the minute because quite clearly there are people out there who are supposedly intelligent people are, are spreading false news to upset people. So, be aware that as adults we're at risk. So as a child, the risk is there. Educate yourself. If you don't know a great deal about, the internet or what goes on the internet and all these weird and wonderful programs that people are using, I'm going to give you a couple of pages to look at that maybe have helped you. But you need to educate yourself. We've got to move as, we're never going to keep up with the tactics of the groomer, but we've certainly got to be keeping as close as we possibly can. It's our job to be suspicious. Normal looks very different at the minute, and it is our job to be suspicious. And it's very, very important that we ask and have the conversations that, maybe we didn't think we had to have before. Remember, the groomer has already made the child redefine whatever normality is. So, it's very, very important that we try and draw the child and empower the child to come back to what we would say is, as the normal place for them. But I think we have to accept, nobody knows what the next 3 to 4 weeks is going to bring. So normal is very different. Have the conversations, but remember, it's our job to be nosy, but it's our job to be nice. Educate your children. In actual fact, the irony is there will be some children that'll probably know a little bit more about this than you, and they might actually think that they're totally safe. And as I say, I'm not going to start calling into question certain social media apps or groups that people join, but none of them are safe because at the end of the day, on the surface, they might be simply being used to pass information, to pass videos, but there are people out there who will exploit that. And if we remember nothing else from our conversation today, let's remember the 4 R's. And we've got a huge job here. So, whilst everybody else is doing their part to keep us safe, let's do our part to keep ourselves and our children safe. Okay, so that's pretty much us done. A couple of web pages that you may or may not find useful for yourselves. I use them for quite a bit of research in my safeguarding courses, particularly when I'm delivering to foster carers and teachers. www.nspcc.org.uk. Brilliant site. There's lots of good stuff on there, and they've actually got some really, really good age-relevant videos and age-relevant information, because obviously we are going to be seeing a rise on younger children going online. And there's some really good videos and some worksheets that you can print off and leave casually lying around the house for people to look at. www.PACE UK, Parents Against Child Sexual Exploitation. It's another good site, gives you some information and guidance. And obviously Bernardo's, www.bernardos.org.uk. Again, really, really good stuff. And maybe, thinking off the wall here, when we're talking to our friends on Facebook or whatever social media we might be using, let's start sharing best practice. There may be parents and carers and teachers out there that know about apps that you can use. There may be parents and teachers out there who have got experience of things that are going online. So maybe, maybe when we're in our community chat groups, let's start sharing some good information. Because as I say, we can make a huge shield around our most vulnerable people. And, and hopefully, we can make a bit of a difference and keep our most precious gifts safe. Okay, well, that's pretty much it from me. I hope you've enjoyed it. And I'd appreciate if you can to leave me some feedback. I'm very, very new to this sort of YouTube type of delivery. Leave me some feedback. Tell me how I could maybe improve what I'm doing as well. That would be very beneficial, very beneficial. And obviously, if you need any more information or you think there's any information I could assist you with, just drop me an email at jf@jrctraining.co.uk. And please, ladies and gents, take care of yourselves and God bless.